Welcome to another edition of Peaceful Oasis Live. I'm David.
And I'm Tamara. Thanks so much for joining us. Be happy and forgive more. Our guest, Dr. Shawne, is going to teach us how to do that. I can't wait, so don't go away.
We'll be right back.
The following program is presented by Loving Meditations.
Unwind and transform your mind with Peaceful Oasis Live, the concert series hosted by Tamara Green and David Dachinger of Loving Meditations. Masters of mindfulness, music, and storytelling transport you into a state of deep relaxation through soulful conversations, calming meditations, and expansive music, all brought to you live. View past episodes and sign up to get upcoming events and inspirations delivered to your inbox at peacefuloasislive.com. We appreciate you, our viewers, supporting our mission for peace and calm. Let's hear about Dr. Shawne. So, with a PhD in gossip and social media, topping 100 million per month, Dr. Shawne is considered to be one of the most innovative speakers and consultants on communication today. You've seen this six-time Emmy winner featured in major media including CNN, Inc. magazine, and USA Today. Applying gossip theory, she caused a movement on forgiveness as a leadership tool to go viral, garnering her honor of 2016 Nobel Peace Prize nomination. Wow, for her work on global leadership. And let's bring our very dear friend, Dr. Shawne. Hello.
Hello.
Oh, man.
I love you guys. I love being with you. I'm
Ditto,
just tickled to be
ditto.
here.
It's so good to see you. Wow.
Yeah.
What an amazing dynamo, but also like a woman of heart. You're just all heart.
Thank you.
Just, yeah. You're,
Thank
and
you.
people
I'm
are
tickled
going.
to be here. Tickled to be here. Tickled that all our friends over at Project Forgive are live with us, seeing this. I don't do this very often, and if I do it, it's because it's special, and I consider tonight to be very, very special.
Well, we're so glad to have you, and there's so many things that we want to talk about with you that are important for the world at large and for people like those living with cancer and those who are living with grief. And so let's dive in. Let's have this conversation.
Yeah, I would love to start with, it's a really interesting thing as a psychotherapist. I actually get this question quite a bit. Okay, so I'll forgive, my parent or my, family member, but I'm not going to forget it, right? Yeah. So can you explain what really is forgiveness? What is it?
That's a great question. And there's that myth, we hear it all the time, forgive and forget. Don't you hear that everywhere? Mm-hmm. No freaking way. No freaking way. Okay? Because here's the deal. You can forgive something and not forget. I want to talk about your example in just a second.
Yeah.
The reason we don't want to forget, and I'm talking about large offenses. I'm not talking about the guy who cut you off on the freeway. Okay? Because I can forgive that pretty quick. My husband, not so much. We all have different things that'll hook us, right? But someone cut me off on the freeway is easy to forgive. Right. It's the deeper ones. It's the deeper ones. And the reason why you don't want to forget it is because that is your body's warning system cellularly to set boundaries so the offense doesn't keep happening over and over and over again. Now, I would assert, like the way that you said it, Tamara, is, I'll forgive them, but I won't forget. That does not feel like doesn't feel like forgiveness. It feels like resentment and bitterness. I'd be more curious to hear something like, I forgive them, but I'm not going to forget because this is an important lesson in my life. It's a very different vibe, different energy to it, isn't it?
Right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it really is. And you hear those cliches all the time. Forgiveness is for you, how you see all the cliche memes and all that. And it really is. I mean, it really is, because all you have control is right here. That's it. And are you gonna let that stuff build up like barnacles on a boat? And it really impacts every aspect of every single relationship you have if you're carrying that junk. Yeah.
Wow.
Right. And it's a choice, right? Whether we want to go the direction of forgiving and making it a life lesson, or forgiving and holding the resentment, living in that place of, not letting it go.
Yeah. And you're right, David, too. It is a choice. And a lot of the phrase that we use all the time at Project Forgive is making the unconscious conscious. And even unconscious choices are choices. They are a choice, even though we're not present to them. Just like when you're in a business environment, you're always selling. Whether you're present to selling or not, you are always selling yourself. And you can choose to be aware of that and pick your words selectively in that sales environment, just like this conversation of choosing forgiveness. Because I know some people listening in, they're like, my mom was sexual abuse, not forgiving that. That ain't going to happen. I wish I could, but I just can't. And so there's different things we can do to start easing that intensity of that pain.
Like what? What are some tips and tools on how to ease that pain?
Yep. Well, the biggest one, of course, is our signature tool, accepting the apology you'll never receive, which we're going to do today as a meditation. We're going to walk through that. Another one is one of my mantras. If I'm really stuck, and I'm stuck with something right now, okay? It's a relative, and I am very upset about it. And 2 clues. When I'm really upset about something, it tells me that it's about the present, and with this much charge, it's also about the past.
Yeah.
Okay.
so
So
that's-
what's going on for me that's incomplete, right?
Yeah.
Right. And you agree as a psychotherapist, I'm sure.
I mean, I think you just said something so key. If it's got that much of a charge to it, it has to do with our past. Wow, that's a really good tip right there.
Yeah, it really does. So with my upset right now, I'll just call this person Jay. Okay. The charge is moving me through some grief with my past. And it's hard to do because it hurts, Grief is it's hard to be with. And forgiveness and grief go hand in hand, because grief is what actually transforms us and changes us. Not suffering and being mad, and not that. The actual grief is what transforms us. I know you guys know this from having cancer yourself, David, right? And the whole 9 yards. One of the things that I do a lot, like what I'm doing with Jay right now, is I'm saying to myself, Dr. Shawne, can you forgive yourself for not forgiving Jay? That's just something I say. And I'm like, okay, I can do that first step. It's a little one. I can forgive myself for not being very forgiving, because I'm still really ticked off. I am. Truth be told, I'm ticked. And I don't want to bypass or sidestep this process, because forgiveness is a transformational process. It's not something you just say and declare, although that can happen, don't get me wrong. Usually for the deeper stuff, though, it's a process.
And I love the fact that you're talking about it in terms of transformation and process, because that really has the connotation of movement, that, we're not stuck, but we can actually be flowing with the process and with the going through this stage that may lead us to another place. Is that kind of a dynamic thing in terms of forgiveness?
It sure is. And, it might be a great example is talking about cancer. I know you guys are huge advocates of cancer. People that know me or hang out with me on Project Forgive know that I lost my mother, my mother, my sister, and my dad to cancer in a very short period of time, just before COVID. And my brother-in-law has cancer. And like 1 out of every 8 women will get breast cancer. 1 out of every 3 family has dealing with cancer. And that's a long-term process. And I would love for you to share a little bit for you, David, mostly for the benefit of the folks that hang out at Project Forgive.
Well, once I wrapped my head around, the only way out is through, then I realized I had to break it down into bite-sized increments, that I was not going to get well in one day. I wasn't going to be able to return to my normal life in a couple of minutes or a couple of weeks. It was going to take some time. And once I started to embrace the fact that it was a process, it was a journey, and I chose to make it a journey where I was going to experience things like what's my body capable of? How can Tamara and I, kind of grow our relationship in this cancer patient caregiver experience together?
Yeah.
Then it started to change, because then it was a choice. Then it was, I was empowering myself to experience cancer not as a victim, but as as someone who is,
A willing participant.
yeah, like a participant, a willing participant.
Yeah, and embracing what's so. And it's who I'm trying to think of who does the quote. What you resist persists.
Yeah.
It's what's true anyway.
Right.
You can either suffer through it, you'd be miserable through it. You can start embracing it. Embrace is a great word. And that was same for me with my journey too, with my family system.
Right.
Boy, it was hard though. Cancer's tough, man. Cancer is tough.
Yeah, it's scary. It brings up all the emotions. There's PTSD when you're diagnosed. Every time you go to have a scan, you're terrified that you're going to get that terrible news. Yeah, it's these processes of grief. Grief kind of over and over again as you go through it.
You're so spot on. And I would spend a lot of time with my mother in particular in the hospital. And it's been a little over a year now since she passed. And I just had a colonoscopy. Woohoo! Okay.
Yay!
So I had to get a procedure. I actually went to the hospital where my mother went to all the time. And I wasn't expecting the emotion. I'm sitting there, laying there. They haven't even given me drugs yet, and I'm bawling because I'm like just so overwhelmed with emotion. And when I say bawling, I mean like for 3 minutes, because grief comes in waves. And whenever I'm grieving and in the process of forgiveness, whatever that forgiveness is, I remind myself this is not going to last forever. It might last for 3 minutes because sometimes we avoid the pain because we think we're just going to be laying there sobbing.
Right.
For hours and hours and hours. And that's not how we are biologically hardwired. It doesn't work that way.
Right.
That's what comes in increments, right?
It always ends, right?
Does.
The episode of whatever that is you're feeling ends and I'm saying this very distinctly because we often hear in the cancer world, it's never going to get better. This is the way it is, and it just creates so much anxiety and pain, depression, all of it.
Yeah, it really does. Anxiety, all that comes with it.
Right.
And, people always say too that, time heals all wounds. Well, does time really heal all wounds? I personally believe, and you guys can share what your experience is because all our experiences are different. They just are. Is that time doesn't heal the wound for me. Time allows the transformation of grief to happen, and it changes. It doesn't go away. At least it hasn't for me. Okay. Even the lady who raised me when I was, she died when I was 15. I still miss her. Still. And she raised me, and time hasn't healed that wound. It transformed it. It's different. There's an ache. It's definitely an ache is still there. And isn't that sometimes what you guys think, like it's part of being human, isn't it?
Absolutely. Do you mind going a little deeper with what you mean by transform? So if there's the grief is transforming you, it leads you from here, and I'm talking about you.
Yeah.
It's led you from here to here, and where is it leading? The transformation.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's a exquisite question, Tamara. Exquisite. I love that question. And there's so many researchers tell you how many steps there are to forgiveness. Do do these. Dr. Wayne Dyer does 11. So for my research, I came up with 5 that encompassed, that felt doable and workable and easy to digest.
Okay.
And before I say the 5, it's not a linear process. You don't do step 1 and you're done. Step 2, you're done. Step 3, you're done. It does not work that way.
Right.
Kind of like 12-step programs. If you know someone or anyone listening has done a 12-step program, you're constantly doing the steps. It's an evolving, it's an onion peeling. Don't we use that in therapy a lot? You're peeling the onion or whatever, okay? Yeah. And it's shock, anger, grief, acceptance, and peace. Shock, anger, grief, acceptance, and peace. The shock is just that initial, like, oh my gosh, my mom's dead, right? The anger can be like angry at God or a deity. I can't believe you took her. What did you do? And then the grief, that grief is not the suffering, it's the actual longing and aching and missing. And the acceptance is very similar to how you were talking, David, that you just kind of accept and embrace what's going on, and then you have peace. Now, the goal is for us to all have peace 24/7.
That ain't happening.
No. How I measure, how I quantify success is when I have longer moments of peace. Because, even that day I got the colonoscopy when I was at my mom's hospital, I felt really angry that day. I was so angry. Then I felt incredible grief. Where people tend to get stuck or tend to leap over is the phase from anger to grief, because it's so much easier to be angry. Some people struggle just being angry in general. So they go from shock to acceptance and don't grieve or get angry. Anger is so important. It's our amygdala brain warning system telling something needs to change or happen. And so that transition and that dancing back and forth between anger and grief is where the miracles happen.
Yes. I'll say this and then we got to go to a break.
Yeah.
Anger, as a psychotherapist, I love anger because it's very motivating for change. It's almost like the spark for that motivation that's required for change, right?
Yes. And just like the issue that I'm upset about with Jay and my family, I'm really angry. I need to do something different. I don't have the answer yet. Okay. And it's motivating me to find the next answer. You're spot on, Tamara. That's exquisite.
Yes, absolutely. Wonderful. So we're going to take a little break, so don't go away. We'll be right back.
The doctor told me the answer, and now my head is spinning. He said I'm living with cancer, and my journey is just beginning. I'm stressed out and afraid. I have cried and I have prayed. Time to quiet my mind and be still. Take a deep breath and just chill. I put in my earbuds and decompress. Touch play on the app to ease my stress. I'm choosing peaceful relaxation with loving meditations. I'm loving meditations.
Yay. All right, I got to jump in. Can I just jump in really quick? Your promos are so good, okay? I love seeing the harpist in the earlier one. It was just beautiful. What I'm wondering, before we go into my meditation on the apology, if you wouldn't mind because we're talking about cancer quite a bit, and I know the folks at Project Forgive care about this topic. I know you guys have meditations, you have all kinds of stuff. Would you just tell folks what that is? Would you do that for me and my followers?
Sure. Well, out of our cancer journey, which involved a lot of downtime, a lot of going through those 5 stages you were talking about, it's like, what can we do to kind of make it a meaningful time? And so we used meditation, yoga, and mindfulness during the cancer journey. Fast forward to the end, we decided we really wanted to pay that forward to people who are living with cancer or caregiving people living with cancer. And we created Loving Meditations, which has many, many meditations for not just cancer patients, but anyone who's going through a stressful time in their daily life. But in addition, we have meditations specifically for cancer patients and caregivers for stuff like scanxiety and being diagnosed and sleep and just all the stress that one goes through as a patient or caregiver. So we feel very, very connected with the community of people living with cancer, and that's our mission to to help them any way we can.
Absolutely.
Perfect. And I just want to say, I will be going live next week. And you guys are the sponsors of that show. So if you miss where to find this, Loving Meditations, I'll make sure you have all the info to best support you in your mental health and
Right.
be more happy.
And your apology, the apology process is going to end up on our app as well.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So I have to admit something, Dr. Shawne.
Are you in trouble?
No, I'm not. But my heart, I'm getting emotional. Okay, so during the commercial,
Oh, don't do that. No, I'm joking.
during the commercial, I knew I wanted to ask about what sparked for Project Forgive, and I started getting emotional just thinking about it because it's such a powerful story. So forgive me for getting emotional, but I can't help it because it's just so. From the moment I learned about Project Forgive, I've always been so. It has touched my heart deeply. So, do you mind sharing what sparked that amazing movement, Project Forgive?
You know, a few things did. You're moving me by saying that. We love it raw and real. It's all good. It makes you safe. When someone has tears in their eyes, that's vulnerability, and it just feels good. Like I know I can share. I know others can share when that happens. So I have a training agency, and I do a lot in high pressure communication where you take risks, you can say the wrong thing, and the game became how quickly can you forgive yourself as a risk taker, as a leader. And so that's always been a part of my journey. Forgiveness has always been really important to me for many reasons, being an incest survivor, alcoholic, all that stuff that comes in the family systems. And what really was the channel that made it tip over was when a dear friend of ours died. His name is Gary Weinstein. I like to say is, not was, for whatever reason. That just soothes me. And he was killed by a drunk driver. His wife and 2 children were killed by a drunk driver. And it turns out that later that day, when we found out the devastating news, my husband was Judy's business coach. Or no, I'm saying that wrong. Let me say it again. Judy was my husband's business coach. That's Gary's wife, who was murdered, because I see drunk driving was murdering. And my children babysat her 2 children, and Sammy and Alex. And the day that they died was devastating. And I remember hearing the news, and then hearing later that day, not only do we know the family, we also knew the man who killed them. So it was like, whoa, it was like, it really, and I don't say this facetiously, for me, it was a come to Jesus moment. It really was for me. Because like, wow, how can you have this amazing man on one hand, because we know Tom Wellinger, who actually caused this horrific crash, amazing man, at the same time, this family, amazing family. And that the next day, his entire family was flying in to Michigan from out of state to do an intervention on his alcoholism. So they were a day late, and knew that this had to be a conversation, and knew the timing was right. When we edited, we did a little video, we edited it like in a half day. It was a matter of boom, boom, boom. Let's do this story. We need to tell this story, that you can be an amazing person and still cause a horrific crash. And some of our mistakes that you and I make, they may not be as public. They may not be in the news. And we know what it's like to make a mistake. And to have empathy for him killing a family. And the man who lost his family having empathy for the man who killed his family. It was just mind-blowing. And that's how we started it. The video went viral. We said, okay, we're going to do a film. We're going to do a movie. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Had no capacity to be equipped with all the religious material coming at us, because we're so committed to exploring this conversation of forgiveness. So when we were seeking money and all that, we had lots of agendas with religions. And that's when we decided to be a non-religious movement, non-partisan, non-religious, so that no matter what your belief system is, you can be a part of this. And so it's definitely been a journey with my family dying and all that. we're hopefully, I'm going to say hopefully, maybe we'll have it sold by the end of the year, the documentary, that we'll be able to see it in 2022. It's an amazing documentary, amazing stories that came out of it. And the biggest bonus was this movement on forgiveness, dispelling myths, talking about forgiveness in a real way that we normally don't talk about. Like, well, I'm going to take the high road. Screw the high road. What does that even mean? Okay, excuse my language, but what does taking the high road even mean if you're upset? Are you going to like go eat 10 Reese's peanut butter cups because you didn't deal with this? Or smoke cigarettes, or whatever it is that you do that self-harms? Because when we don't address stuff internally, we self-harm, even if it's unconscious. And that unconsciousness might be workaholism. It might be avoiding or starting fights so you don't have to be close to people. It always shows up. And as a therapist, I know you know this, Tamara. I know you know this. Right?
Absolutely. And it has a ripple effect, and then it starts affecting, you're not only hurting yourself, not dealing with it, but you're hurting those that you love around you as well.
And you're cementing the habits generationally with your kids and your grandkids. Unless you're willing to like take authentic look at what's going on for you, you're passing it on to be repeated over and over and over every generation.
Exactly. I think it'd be such a great time to show that video that did go viral. It's 6 minutes, but boy, you're not going to stop watching, I guarantee you. So listen to this.
Okay, perfect.
It's in my heart. Forgiveness is being nice. Forgiveness is a bunch of sounds. No forgiveness for girls kissing me. Forgiveness is about caring. Forgiveness means like if you don't hate anybody in your life.
Kids get this. Forgiveness is easy, it's clean, it's simple, it's pure. Forgiveness is at our core. It's simply who we are. We're born with it. And then, of course, life happens to us. Pain starts to build up. Maybe we get our hearts broken. Maybe we lose our job. We file for bankruptcy. We lose our homes. We start seeing deep political disharmony, which is going on right now. Immigration issues, war, and violence. I'm Shawne Duperon, and I'm a filmmaker in Detroit. Project Forgive is a very different kind of film.
I got the call around 4:30 in the afternoon from the hospital, from the nurse, saying they had my son Sam at the hospital. And I said, I'm on my way. And they took me into the family waiting room, and the doctor came in, and the doctor said they did what they could, but he didn't make it. And I asked, you mean no one made it? And the doctor said, no one made it. And in that moment, I realized that I was alone.
Gary's wife Judy and sons, Sam and Alex, were killed that day by a drunk driver.
But what I knew was I was the one who was going to get myself up out of bed the next morning. I was the one that had to answer to my actions from that point forward, and how I treated others and how I treated myself. I was still whole and complete. I knew that this happening to me was for me an opportunity.
One of those opportunities was to meet Tom, the man who took his family, the man Gary was already forgiving.
Tom asked if I could forgive him. I replied, can you forgive yourself? And he said, I don't know if I ever can. That's this opportunity. We are not what happens to us. Who we get to be is who we say we're going to be in the world. I am clear I'm a bold contribution to the planet. That's really is who I am.
Gary's story was the catalyst for this film, and one of many that we'll explore. And my family was very close to Gary's family. My children babysat Sammy and Alex. Judy was my husband's business coach, and finding out that day that they were killed by a drunk driver was pretty devastating, as I'm sure you can understand. The story goes even deeper. A few hours later that same day, I get a phone call about the man who had killed Gary's family, and he also happens to be a very dear family friend. So here's the dilemma. On one hand, you have Tom, who caused this horrific accident and horrific pain. And on the other hand, you have Tom, our family friend, who's also a loving, amazing human being. So how do we hold these conflicting emotions within our heart at the same time? And this is where the consciousness will shift. This is where the breakthroughs lie. This film will deeply explore how to hold these different perceptions at the same moment so that a miraculous rebirthing can occur, an emotional maturity to happen in our culture that we haven't seen yet. So here's the request. Everybody has a story. Everyone has a story, and we want yours. We're using everything. And even if it doesn't make it into the film itself, we'll incorporate it somehow into our DVD series, our book series, because this conversation is so important. To submit your story and at the same time help fund this important film and mission, simply click on the Back This Project button and pledge what you're inspired to pledge. After that, you'll receive instructions to share your story if that's something you'd like to do. In talking with Gary, I thought the perfect way to end this video is to tell you about Judy. Judy was a dynamo, powerful, authentic, straight talker. She told you like it is. And if she were here today, this is what she'd say, and this is how she'd say it. She'd say, "So I'm dead. Now what?" Project Forgive is the now what. If you've been touched by this mission, pledge now.
Okay, it's taking forever.
Wow. I'm always so deeply moved
It's
by that
beautiful.
video. Wow.
It's absolutely.
And one of the things that came out of this amazing mission, Project Forgive mission, and the process of the movie is you created a powerful tool called the apology. The apology you'll never receive. So, and that's the process you're going to do for us. So can you
Let me talk about it a little bit. Yeah. So here's where it came from. And it is powerful because our brain believes what we tell it. If you think of a pickle, you can taste that pickle right now in your mouth. Our brains are very powerful. And that was the whole goal of the apology you'll never receive. It cements that we are in charge of our own healing and that you really don't need somebody else to apologize to you to feel whole and complete, using Gary's words from the video. And how it came about was with my neighbor. My neighbor who drives me frickin' crazy, okay?
They're the best gurus, aren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah. He just brought me over some chocolate beer, so I'm not complaining. Like, we've come a long way since this has happened, okay? So what would happen is I'd go out to get the mail, okay? And he'd see me, and I could already feel me getting annoyed, you know? And he'd say, "Good morning, Dr. Shawne." And I'd say, yeah. But Bob, not his real name. "It's 6 p.m., honey. It's 6 p.m. And he'd say, "I know, but you look like you just got up."
Oh.
There's many stories like that that just simply happens to be my favorite, okay? So he just annoyed me to death. And it wasn't even like I thought about him when I wasn't around him, just when I'd see him, you know, that kind of annoyance. And so I said, something here's got to give, because I claim I'm the forgiveness lady. And if he were to go gossip about me, which is what I know a lot about, right? My PhD is in gossip. he would say I was a mean, nasty woman. And that isn't going to work for the forgiveness lady. So what can I do to shift me? That really was the bottom line. So I started pretending that he was apologizing to me. He was not apologizing. I'd say in my mind's eye, I'd say something like, oh, Dr. Shawne, I can't believe it. I did it again. I put my foot in my mouth. Socially, I'm so freaking awkward. You aren't the only one I do this with. I do this with everybody. I know you know my past and where I came from and the lack of beautiful parenting in my life. And the truth is, I wish I could connect at a deeper level. I just don't know how. And would you forgive me? Now, even saying that, that makes me want to cry. Because that's the whole point of accepting the apology you'll never receive, is to say an apology in your mind that moves you, that shifts you on a dime. And you can already tell I'm already softening. And it's not a one-hit wonder. It's not like you're going to go to a wedding and you need to drop 5 sizes so you only diet the day before. It doesn't work that way. Right. It's a practice. Okay? If you want to get in a dress 5 sizes lower, you got to work on it. Okay? And this is the same kind of conversation. So every time I'd see them, I'd start practicing that. I do it with an all capacity. I've done it a kabillion times already today with Jay in my life. And it softens me and brings me to a different place. And this activity, like the biggest proponents of this activity is General Motors. Like, no kidding, you guys. One executive at General Motors saw this activity at an event and just said, oh my goodness, because it actually feels like someone's apologizing to you. It's ideal to do it with another person so you can share what you're upset about. You can share what the apology is you'd really like to hear. And then your partner mirrors back that apology, and it actually feels like that person is apologizing to you. And so for the purposes of our meditation, being in this peaceful oasis, is I did put together a version of it that you can do on your own that we'll make sure goes up on YouTube, is shared, so you have access to it to actually practice, right? Because it's a great tool. Also, you'll have it on your app. Yeah, what sound good? Loving Meditation app, right? Loving Meditation.
Yeah.
And so it's just something you can carry with you right in an app, which is great because you want to practice this a lot, especially when you're really, really, really upset. Okay. And, you know, before I even start the meditation, I just want to say it can be used for a deity. It can be used for a situation. It can be for a company. It can even be for COVID. It doesn't matter. And the other thing I want to say about this is, in my family, between me and my husband, I'm not the meditator. Okay. I always say I do meditation for non-meditators. Okay. Because I have a hard time sitting still a lot. Can anyone else relate? Okay. Terry, my husband, he will meditate. It's not an exaggeration, an hour a day. He does. I watch him. I'm just, he says, you want to come sit with me? I'm like, no, I'm good. Because my meditation is very different. For me, meditation is about being present. Like when I train, that's very meditative for me. It causes me to be so present. When I walk, heel to toe, I do a lot of walking meditation. For whatever reason, I am just not biologically hardwired to be deeply attracted to deep Kundalini meditation and all that. And I've accepted that about myself. And so I know that non-meditators who want to get access to presence like to hang out with me because I give them some options, right? And if you are a deep meditator, you're going to love this too. How's that?
Yeah.
Something for everybody.
Absolutely.
Oh, crap. I just unplugged. Hold on one second. Let's screw up. All right, I'm back. I hit it with my foot. Sorry, guys. All right. And David, you are the master editor, audio soundboard, amazing guru that you are. Writer of music and all those things, good and beautiful.
Yeah, Grammy-nominated composer.
You know what? I did not know he was Grammy-nominated.
Yeah.
Wow.
Twice.
Doesn't shock me. Not even the least. Doesn't even shock me.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to do this meditation. Can I go ahead and start?
Yeah.
Let's do that.
All right, everybody, take a deep breath. Roll your shoulders just a little bit. Now, this meditator who's a non-meditator, you can either do this with your eyes open or with your eyes closed or even half lids. Have you ever done like half lids and you focus on something on the wall Make sure your feet are down so your legs aren't crossed. And just be comfortable in your body and in your skin. And another deep breath to get in your body. Wiggle your fingers a little bit so you can feel the energy in your fingers. Wiggle your toes a little bit. However you're sitting, feel the lower part of your bum, sitting on the chair or sitting on the floor. Be very present to the back of what you're leaning against, or if you're sitting straight up, just your I don't know what other term to use except your butt bones, and you can giggle, it's okay, right? Deep breath, feeling that deep breath. Make your stomach go as big as it can, because you want to be breathing in that diaphragm area. Beautiful. Now, I want you to start thinking about the topic you want to take on for this meditation, for the accepting the apology you'll never receive. The topic can be anything that's causing you distress. Let it just bubble up. For some of you, you already know, you like, bingo, I know exactly what's wrestling with my peace right now. And if I could have a little more forgiveness around that, that would be a really, really good thing. You can be with your sister or your brother, your mother, a boss even, or even your partner, your love of your life. It can also be about forgiving yourself. Maybe you made the stupidest mistake and you just can't get over it. It's time you had some release from that. Like I mentioned earlier, it could be being angry at COVID, racial disparity, all the political fighting. It can be about situations like that that are happening globally. It can even be a bureaucracy. Maybe you're going through a divorce and you're upset with the whole system. Sometimes we have a hard time even acknowledging that we're upset with a system. Could even be you're upset with your computer because you're having tech issues. It could be whatever's causing you distress. So once you have this topic decided, and I know many of you have decided already, I was allowing some time for those that process differently to have that bubble up and come up for them. I want you to relish in the details of this upset. What are you actually upset about? What happened? How does it feel? Why did it hurt you? Did it violate a boundary? Did you feel a lack of respect or dignity or just basic love? What was it? And what is it? The goal here for really relishing in it is so you can feel the full charge of the upset. Because many times our upsets in the present also bring with it our upsets from the past, which makes it even more charged and even feel bigger than what it is. So pretend that that person or that situation just sat down right in front of you. If it's a bureaucracy, you can just put a big D, divorce bureaucracy, on it. If it's your mom just sat down in front of you. As they sit down in front of you, they're telling you, my only job here is to love you, validate you, and allow you to express because I love you. It's the only reason you're here, or I care about you. It's the only reason that I'm here is to meet your needs. Tell them. Take about 45 seconds in your mind's eye, tell them what you're really upset about. And how it might look, I'll give you a couple of examples. One of mine is, I'm really upset with you, God. I use God. You took my mother, my sister, and my dad, and you left me here all alone to fend for myself. I have horrible survivor's guilt. Tears will come up when you do this. I have horrible survivor guilt. Why did I get to live and they all died? At the same time, the hurt with my mom that last year was so hard. And now I'm left in just a puddle of stress and pain. And you could have done this different, God. You did it the way you did it. And I hate it. I absolutely hate it. There isn't a day that goes by, sometimes I want to say an hour that goes by, that I don't feel upset about everybody dying. Deep breath. Another one might be with a boss and you're a millennial. Okay, boss, you suck. You really suck, man. You keep calling me millennial in front of all my colleagues. I'm so embarrassed every time you use that word. It feels degrading to me. I don't want to be referred to as a millennial. I'm much more than just a millennial, and I can't stand it when you do that. Lots of examples. There's your upset. Now, I'm going to change gears. You're still talking to that person sitting in front of you, and you're going to tell them, this is the apology I really would like to hear. The apology I would really like to hear. Let's start with, I'm going to use God first, because that's just where I am. And God would say, my dearest little Shawne. It's very emotional when you do this sometimes. My dear little Shawne, I love you so. That's what I want him to say. I want him to tell me how much he loves me. I want him to tell me he's sorry that this happened. I want him to remind me that I'm being held in his arms and that there's a method to this madness. There's a reason why it happened, even if I will never know the reasons. I want to be assured that I'm loved as an orphan, as a 57-year-old grandmother orphan, that I'm still loved. And I want you, God, to tell me you're sorry that I had to do this and go through this. So once you share what that apology is, I want you to pretend that God, your boss, your sister, the divorce bureaucracy, even COVID itself, if that's what you chose, or your sister, or your husband, partner, opens their mouth and starts apologizing. And you can embrace a bigger perspective of it. So what I can hear God saying to me, he's saying, dear little Shawne, I love you so, little angel. I know you're in so much pain, my sweet, precious child. You are a sweet, precious child of God, and you are my child. I know it hurts so much to have lost your entire family. I wouldn't wish that on anyone. And I know you don't understand the reason why I did what I did. And maybe someday you will know, and that's really not what's going to comfort you. What's going to comfort you is knowing that I have divine order to this, that you are preciously being held in my arms right now, and I'm here for you whenever you need me. I'm here, and I'm not going anywhere. And I love you. I got your back, my sweet little girl. Deep breath. When you think of the apology that you want to hear, and then you actually replay it again as if they were saying that, it's like getting the apology 2 times. We're going to do it one more time for safety. In 2 sentences or so, do your best to summarize that apology. My summary would be, I love you, sweet, precious child of mine. I will never abandon you. I know you feel abandoned. I have your family in my precious heart, in my precious hands, and I am with you always. I will never, never leave you. And I'm sorry that you're hurting so much, my precious angel child. Just take a deep breath. In your mind's eye, if you can take that situation, and I want you to move to another room. I want you to, in your mind's eye, physically get up and walk to another room. And when you open the door, it's a surprise room. It's like your dream room, whether it's gardens, whether it's Afghans, whether it's filled with sunflowers. My precious room is in the Amazon with rainwater all around it. And enter that room, and in the room, there's a big box, like a trunk, sitting on the floor. Typically, it's red for me. You can pick whatever color you want, whatever embellishment you want. And as you're holding this upset, this lack of forgiveness with this specific person or situation, I want you to walk over to the trunk, open the door of the trunk, and place it in there consciously. You can leave the trunk open if you'd like. You can close it. This is not to pack away your pain or pack away your upset. It's to consciously decide to put it to the side because you say so. And you can go back to that trunk anytime you want to receive the apology again, to do it another way, to keep doing it until you get to the trunk, and when you open it, there's nothing in there anymore because you've completed the apology you'll never receive. And that's why we call it the apology you'll never receive, because many times it comes from someone who's died, or a deity, like I picked a deity, from someone who can't actually talk to you. Take a deep breath. However you'd like to say goodbye to the trunk, whether it's blow it a kiss, hug it, touch it with sacred, beautiful energy. And the biggest gift you can give that box in this situation is to say thank you. Thank you. Because every time you do the apology you'll never receive, you're investing in yourself, you're investing in your mental health, you're investing in your peace, and it will give you access to things you didn't have access to before. Come on back in your mind's eye to where you were sitting. Take a deep breath. Come back however you'd like to come back. Wiggle your toes. Uncramp your leg if your leg is cramped. Move your shoulders a little bit. Come fully present with us now. I cry every time I do it. Yay. Let me ask you a question, because I know you guys have done the activity live. What was it like doing the meditation?
Just, this is my third or fourth time doing this beautiful process, and each time I'm able to go even deeper and uncover even more. And it's profound. There really is something about doing it again and again and again, because it really is amazing. You know, each time is about my mother, but each time it's deeper and more profound and more transformative, because I feel so grateful to my mother, right?
Yes.
Who has left me and caused so much pain. But so grateful. I wouldn't want my life any other way. I'd want her again in my life. It's fascinating to actually feel these mix of emotions all at the same time.
Yeah, that's beautiful, Tamara. Yeah. You know, people say to me, because I use this deity one a lot, and Project Forgive is non-religious, so it's like me speaking for me. And every time I do it, the grief is deeper. Yeah. And I have that as a good thing. I really do, because I'm getting to the bottom of that grief. And I feel so grateful for that, because I don't want to spend the rest of my 20, 30, 40 years, whatever I have, holding on to that pain, you know. Right. I really appreciate what you're saying about your mother. Mothers are tough.
Yeah, they are tough. Absolutely. So we're getting close to having to wrap up, even though I don't want to let you go.
Yeah, this hour flew by, and
Yeah.
wow, we could just keep going. But yeah, we do have to wrap up. Can you share where people can find you out there in the world, Dr. Shawne?
Absolutely. Well, the biggest thing I always say is if you work in a corporation where they care about mental health and progressive conversations, we bring this into corporations. That's why I'm so grateful to General Motors, Stellantis, formerly Chrysler, Raytheon, Bosch. They just see this and go, oh my gosh, once they experience it. So if you work in a company like that, would love for you to share that with your leadership team, your marketing team, your HR, to bring us in to come and do this activity. It transforms work cultures. And we do see forgiveness as a leadership tool, we really do. Project Forgive is on Facebook. My company, my training agency is Shawne TV, Dr. Shawne with the E on there, Shawne TV. We have a Facebook page there. We have websites. Best place to find us and interact, of course, is Facebook, because that's where we do a lot of our work. And I'd be remiss, because some of our Project Forgive folks have been looking for this hour, and we had some tech issues. I think it's on my end because I had a hard time even putting up an event. So as soon as we say goodbye, I really want to get that link up. So I want to tell my people, I'm sorry we weren't live. Tech issues, forgive me. I'm so sorry. We'll get this up. Okay.
Perfect way to tie it all together.
Yeah, forgive me. I'm so sorry. It's like, oh man, yeah, it's one of those giving up disappointment really quick. Like, okay, it is what it is. Let's embrace. Very similar to how you started off the show, David, with embracing cancer. It's just kind of how life looks sometimes. Eh?
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for being with us and sharing all that you share with us and the world. We love you, and keep doing what you're doing, Dr. Shawne. It's transformative.
It really is.
I love you both so much. Thank you for all that you do for cancer, for those living with and loving their life with cancer.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
You're so welcome.
Oh, boy. And you'll definitely want to join us in 2 weeks. Let's see, I think it's November 3rd, when a wonderful friend, also of Dr. Shawne's as well, is Sharon Saylor. And she's going to talk about, are you making your diagnosis your identity? So that's going to be a really interesting topic.
Until then, have a peaceful week.